Hello, welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews, and you are watching my review for Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All is Possible. And so at first I have to start off with the standard spoiler warning. If you have not seen up through the end of that particular episode, then you should not have clicked on this video. Hey, listen, I know I'm trans, but I'm not Jesse Ginger. I don't have a spoiler-free section at the start of my videos. I dive straight into the spoilers, so go ahead and get out of here now if you have not seen the episode. So here we are with the spoilers. Overall thoughts on the episode is where I usually start. And I thought this was another very strong episode of Season 4 of Discovery. It is not perfect by any means, but I feel like Discovery overall seems like a higher quality show this year. Though I have to be careful because I thought that at points in Season 3, and then there were, later on in the season, it kind of, it was very up and down. Discovery has been very up and down all throughout its run, very inconsistent, so I'm hesitant to say that it's a higher quality show now, but it certainly has been overall through the first 4 episodes. Even last week's episode, which wasn't my favorite, I would still say it just as the quality of the character interactions, the character stories, the writing is very top-notch this year. And I say that about this episode, a very strong episode, despite the fact that it reuses one of the most tired old tropes in all of Star Trek. In fact, I just complained about this very same trope just a couple months ago in an episode of Lower Decks, who also used this same trope. I am, of course, talking about the shuttlecraft crashing trope, first seen way back in the original series first season in the episode Galileo 7, and since then has been seen at least once in every single Star Trek series. I think Voyager had several of them, it feels like. The only ones that haven't had it yet is Picard. I don't know how they would make that work with what they seem to be doing in Season 2 with the whole time travel and Q and all that stuff they seem to be doing, and the Borg Queen's going to be thrown in there. But somehow I feel like they're going to work it. A shuttlecraft crashing story. And then also Strange New Worlds. I think that's a given. 100% that we're going to get one in the first season of Strange New Worlds. It's just something all Trek shows need to do, apparently. And it's always with people who don't get along. They're arguing. They hate each other, whatever. And they have to survive together. And they come together as a team and whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't hate it in this episode for 2 main reasons. One, love the character stories that came out of this particularly Tilly's, and to a lesser extent, Adira's as well. And 2, I really found it fascinating to get an inside look of the new Starfleet Academy and how the cadets are a little different in a world where most planets are used to being isolated over the last century or so, and trying to come back together into a federation. I found that all fascinating, and I'll get into more detail on that as I get into the actual review. We also have very strong B and C plots. I actually loved the B plot with Burnham, and I have a secret soft spot for the diplomacy episode when they're done well. The diplomacy plots, I kind of like them. Picard had some good ones, some great ones in Deep Space Nine as well with Cisco. And actually, like one of my more underrated episodes, I think is one of the more underrated episodes, is Loud as a Whisper, I think it was called, in Season 2 of Next Generation. It gets crapped on a lot because all Season 2 episodes do, and most of them deserve to be. But like the one with the deaf guy who comes up with that solution of teaching everybody how to sign, I liked it. Kind of like the diplomacy episodes. So I like this a lot. And of course, the book plot, I've been liking that all season long. And I'll get into more details when I get into it. So let's go ahead and start getting into more details, and I'll start with that A plot. Okay, so let's get into that shuttlecraft crashing plot, my favorite trope ever. Just kidding. But as I said, I didn't hate it, and one of the reasons is the character stories, and I really like what they're doing with Tilly this season. I had mentioned before that it's kind of like a meta journey for Tilly. It's like the writers trying to figure out what to do with Tilly at the same time as Tilly is trying to figure out what to do with herself. And I had said previously that we can knock first officer off that list. We can knock tactical officer off that list. She never should have been on that mission last week. That should have been a tactical officer. And I forgot to mention this too. That poor Romulan or the Quatmalat person, whoever she was, got killed. And if there had been an actual tactical officer there instead of Tilly, maybe she'd still be alive. But anyway, so I had said no first officer, no tactical officer, nothing stupid like that. So hopefully they'll find a good path for Tilly. And I like this. I loved how she struggled at the beginning, and she reminded me of like the first year teacher or a substitute teacher trying to be smart and do all these fancy things, and all the students just like, fuck you, just shut up, lady. And even though it was kind of the overused trope of the shuttlecraft crash, not only do we have the cadets learning to work together and all of that stuff, but it also was a good means for Tilly to learn how to teach under fire, to learn how to be a leader under fire. And I think this was a much better test for her than when they tried to make her first officer, which was a little ridiculous. So I loved how she was able to kind of pull together and become a leader and a teacher for these cadets, and ended up being the one who volunteered to go fight those or distract those thingies. I saw another video where they pointed out that this was exactly like Star Trek 2009. I don't really remember that movie because I hate it, but once that was brought up, I was like, oh yeah, it kind of is just like that, but whatever. Anyways, I love what they did with Tilly's character. Wasn't it Killy in the parallel universe, in the mirror universe? Anyway, Tilly. I love what they did with her character. Now, I haven't heard anything about Mary Wiseman leaving the show, so I'm assuming there's going to be a subplot with her at Starfleet Academy that will tie into the DMA, as they're calling it, plot, the overarching plot throughout the season. And they'll find a way to get Tilly back working with Discovery again because of that. I'm assuming. And then I would assume at the end of the season, she'll be like, yeah, this teaching thing, maybe not for me. Maybe I'll go back to Discovery. Or maybe they'll find a way to combine the two, and they'll have cadets go into Discovery and Tilly will be in charge of them or something. I don't know. But unless I'm missing something, somebody can tell me in the comments if they've heard Mary Wiseman was leaving the show. I had not. So I assume that she's not. It would be really disappointing if she was, because it would be a crappy goodbye. She got half the goodbye that Ariam got, and she only got one little hug with Stamets. Stamets didn't have any lines in this episode. Stamets and her were a big combination throughout the first 3 seasons of Discovery, worked in tandem together. So if she's still on the show and all we get is a little teeny hug with no dialogue between her and Stamets, that's fine. But if this were her really leaving, I would be like, what? But I don't think it is. As far as I know, it's not. I've never heard anything about that, so I assume that we'll still get to see her working at Starfleet Academy, which is good. I think this is a really good arc for her. I really like it. Then we have Adira, too, who I really felt for Adira. I really connected with them in this plot, because they were like, I don't want to meet new people, and I loved the contrast between them and Gray, and the opening scene of this plot where Adira told Gray, like, but you don't know anybody there, and Gray was like, yeah, well, I'll say hello and introduce myself, and then I know them. And I really sympathize with Adira in this episode, though. I'm with them. I hate meeting new people. It's really hard for me. It's really awkward. Watching it through their eyes, I can really see myself and seeing how Gray reacted. Like, I have friends like that. Like, oh, just go say hi now. I know them. They're my friends now. And I just want to be like sometimes, well, fuck you. but not really, because I have close friends who are that way, and I appreciate them. So I could really empathize with that plot. I feel like maybe this got a little short, the short end of the stick, because there was such focus on Tilly and such focus on the cadets, which I'm about to talk about in just a minute here. But hopefully this is something that will continue to be explored, Adira's kind of character growth. And I really look forward to seeing some more interactions between them and Gray. I can't wait for that. I am super excited, by the way, that to have these two trans characters just, being portrayed as just, regular, normal people as part of the crew. I'm so happy. Like, I don't feel like you see this a lot on television in general. So Star Trek, you're doing good. Good job. Anyways, looking forward to more of that. Let's talk about the cadets. I found this really interesting because they're showing us a post-burn world and trying to rebuild, Starfleet Academy, but the Federation in general. And we get a lot of that, actually. The kind of the underlying theme, the thread throughout this episode is trying to heal old wounds, and for species who had past issues because of the burn, now trying to come back together again. That was an underlying theme in at least two of the storylines this week, and I really loved it. And it was interesting to me, like, seeing that one girl being like, well, I actually had never met any other species than human until I came to Starfleet Academy. And to kind of see the aftermath of the Emerald Chain and how that affected people. It was a little reminiscent of the, Bajoran Cardassian thing, but still, that's not something that, you can't redo. Like, I think it's still interesting. It's interesting to see that that's the after effects of the Emerald Chain. And you had that one dude who, I don't know if they said what his species was. If they did, I missed it. He kind of looked like the Klingon and the Jim Hadar mated, but I'm pretty sure that's probably not what it is. But that's what he kind of looked like. Yeah, and kind of seeing, like, trying to heal those old wounds and seeing how that is playing out, and what kind of challenges that creates for a new Starfleet Academy, because I didn't think of that. When they had the episode where they introduced the new Starfleet Academy, I was like, yay, Starfleet Academy. It's going to be just like the old days. But it's not at all. There's a lot of things they have to overcome with this new Starfleet Academy, and I really found that fascinating, and just goes to show again why Discovery is a really high quality show this year. They're getting into nuances and complexities that Trek has not often covered, so I'm loving it. So that is why I kind of can forgive the overused trope a little bit. Still not my favorite thing in the world. This episode will now be getting a rating of 10 automatically, just because of having that trope, but I did like that fascinating new look at the new Starfleet Academy. Okay, moving on to that B plot and that diplomacy plot, as I said. I guess I just really love it when there's a seemingly, like, unsolvable problem, and to see it be solved and see them figure it out. And I liked in particular how there was so much subtext here. Kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones, how everything was in subtext. And Burnham, saw right through it and was able to figure it out. And she was like, oh yeah, Admiral Vance is sick. Uh-huh. Yeah, and I really loved how she figured that out. And I liked the reveal at the end that the Navarre president, which her name is Tanar. Wait, Tanar was the chick from Lower Decks. Something that starts with a T. Anyway, the Navarran president. she was the one who secretly sent a heads up to President Rillick that this was a thing that was happening, because it wasn't necessarily like her decision. It was all political, because there was this faction of logical Vulcans who are very much against rejoining the Federation, and this clause came from them. So the Navarre president has to look strong, and has to accept that. And so it's really interesting to see the different complexities of the fact that Navarre itself, as Burnham points out at one point in this episode, is divided with Vulcans and Romulans, and has been trying to come together as a planet itself over the centuries. So that's interesting. And then they're also trying to get back together with the Federation, and there's all the complexities and nuances that go with that. So I find that all really fascinating. And then you have the Federation side, where President Rillick has to look strong too. She can't, as she explains to Burnham, like she doesn't look like a strong Federation. She doesn't look like a strong president if she starts making concessions like that, and then everybody's going to want to make concessions. And Burnham comes up with a really good solution to have an independent committee. So I loved all of this, and I have to say I am absolutely loving this President Rillick character. And I love it at the end where Burnham was like, hey, next time, you can be upfront with me. And President Rillick was like, okay. And the reason why I really love what they're doing with this character is because, as I mentioned in my review for the first episode, it kind of seemed like they might be setting her up as the, classic, evil admiral or evil commodore or overbearing ambassador who comes on the ship and tells people what to do, and they really don't know what they're doing, or they end up being evil, or blah, blah, blah. But it's not that at all. President Rillick is actually a good person, but she's also has to be a politician. So I love what they're doing with this character. And I love how we're seeing her relationship with Burnham really evolve. Maybe President Rillick is going to be the one that Burnham has to let die. That's possible. I didn't think of that. I've been talking about, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I've been talking about over my previous reviews, this theory I have that we have the Chekhov's death, because we had the scene at the beginning with Rillick, beginning of the season with Rillick and Burnham, where Rillick was talking to Burnham about how she cannot, she can never sacrifice anyone. She always tries to try to save everybody, and sometimes that's to the detriment of the greater good. And I have speculated it could be Book that she has to sacrifice, it could be Saru, but maybe it is Rillick herself, which would be very interesting, because I can really see that their relationship is developing well, and I love it. I just really love it. So this is a really good subplot. Now let's talk about that C plot with Book and Culber. I've heard that there's the opinion floating out there that Book is just moping around all season, and it's just mopey Book. Hey, you know what? If that's your opinion, let's see how you react if your entire planet gets destroyed. Maybe you might mope a little bit too. I love this because they're finally showing real life grief. This is how real humans behave. Unlike Princess Leia in Star Wars, her whole planet gets destroyed, and she's upset about it for a second, and then for the rest of the trilogy doesn't give it a second thought ever again, never mentions it. So this is much more realistic. This is much more human, and I love the interactions between Book and Culber. And I like the little nod to Culber's own issues, because remember, Culber was having some issues too when he came back to life. So I love that they kind of mentioned that, and Culber was like, yeah, maybe another time. So yeah, I found that all very interesting too, and enjoyed that as well. And it just proves to me again that Discovery, at least so far, seems to be a pretty high quality show. So really loving all of that. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap things up this week with my rating out of 10, as I do every week. 1 would be the lowest possible score, 10 would be the highest possible score. And this week's episode, Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible, is getting a rating of 8. So, very strong episode, as I said. And as I also said, I cannot give it a 10 or 9, really, because of the shuttlecraft thing. But they did something really good with that trope, really great character development, and really fascinating look at the new version of Starfleet Academy. And as I said, love that B plot as well. So this is an 8 out of 10, and I am really hoping that Discovery can keep the momentum going and get even stronger as the season goes on. And that does it for my review of Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 4, All Is Possible. Please stay with me every week for my reviews for Discovery. I am also reviewing The Wheel of Time weekly, and another programming note, starting tomorrow, December 10th, I will be posting my first in a series of 4 videos in which I will be doing my best and worst of 2021. And the first video in that series will be the most overrated show of 2021. And just so that there's not confusion, because I've already gotten a couple messages about this, I set it as a premiere. So this is a YouTube feature where you can take one of your pre-recorded videos, upload it, and then set it to premiere at a particular time. So it is set to premiere at 7 a.m. on December 10th, 7 a.m. my time, Pacific West Coast time in the United States. That is not the same as a live stream. I'm not doing a live stream at 7 in the morning. I'm going to be getting ready for work. That is just when the video will premiere. That's all that means. I'm going to be doing that for each of my 4 videos in which I will be giving out the best and the worst awards of 2021. So starting with the most overrated show of 2021, which will be premiering at 7 a.m. on my channel on December 10th. And if you are watching this in the future, then it's already up there. Please check it out. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.